Yes, it's going to be the successful app as ever. And now, ladies and gentlemen, as we all know, the man is here, the energy bomb is here, and I'm going to invite him, the high performance mindset panel. Next up, we are diving into what it truly takes to win, not just in sport, but in life and leadership. Our next session is called High Performance Mindset, Lessons from the Field to the Boardroom. We'll hear from elite athletes and business leaders on the habits, focus, resilience, and mindset that drive consistent peak performance. So this is going to be intense, energetic, insightful, and of course energizing. So here we have the man whose name is synonymous with passion, the flying South African fielding forever. Please join me in welcoming the legendary Jonty Rhodes, ladies and gentlemen, with a huge round of applause. I promised you this is going to be energizing. And Mr. Jonty, thank you so much for being here at the Global Business Conclave 2025. And here to moderate you on a one-on-one conversation, we have Mr. Shyam from Beehive Communication. Can we have you on stage, please? Let's put our hands together for Mr. Shyam. And I'm leaving the stage to you, Mr. Shyam. Can we have some energy in the room, please? Thank you.
Oh, Shyam, I'm under pressure. You've got the whole notebook, notepad. And just a quick disclaimer, I'm no business expert, so just a quick disclaimer. I have the enthusiasm. My business acumen is a bit like my mountain biking. Lots of enthusiasm, but very little skill. So I am 100% committed to things that I do. I don't always have the brain power to fulfill it, but it's an exciting trip every time I get on a mountain bike. So possibly we might have the same with this discussion. Just a disclaimer.
Yesterday, we had a quick discussion with Jonty Rhodes himself. And we discovered that he's extremely humble. And whatever he said now is just a reflection of that. I would like to tell you people, this would be the best of the talks that you would ever hear. Thank you so much, sir, for being here. Now, I would like to recommend to every one of you here to do what I've been doing for the last 20 minutes. Pinch yourself. If you still don't believe, pinch your friend nearby. Yes. The world's best fielder is in this hall right in front of you. So in cricket, every time that we watch a player walks inside, you'll find the profile reading batter or bowler or all-rounder. The only qualified cricketer in this planet who can have his profile read a golden fielder. A quick 1 minute before we hear it from the hero himself. Today is one of those days when even the word legend feels like an understatement. In a country obsessed with batting and bowling, he made fielding a headline and made an entire generation fall in love with effort, agility, and excellence. Jonty Rhodes is not just a cricketer, he's a standard setter, a mindset coach, an entrepreneur, and a global ambassador of athleticism. From smashing stereotypes in sport to backing startups in India, Jonty's journey is one of reinvention, resilience, and remarkable relevance to every one of us here. He taught us how to throw ourselves at the stumps. And now he is throwing himself into wellness, tech, and entrepreneurship with the same passion. And for someone like me who once pretended to dive like Jonty in the living room, breaking a flower vase or a glass mug, it's an absolute honor, sir, to be on this stage with you. Today we'll uncover not just cricketing tales, but business truths, not just match moments, but mindset lessons. Let's dive right in, people. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in this conversation with Mr. Jonty Rhodes himself. Thank you. So, Jonty, you have named your daughter India. So why is India so special to you? What attracted you to the Indian startup ecosystem, especially in wellness?
Well, this is going to be a long answer because there's about 3 questions in that, Shyam. So you've started off like with a half volley, and hopefully I can hit this to the boundary through the covers. But it's, firstly, our daughter's name is India. My wife and I, we're South Africans. India was born in Mumbai during the 2015 IPL and halfway through the IPL season. And my wife's a yoga teacher. She's also an architect. She also practices Vedanta philosophy. So for her, naming India was very much a spiritual part of our journey as a family. For me, it was more a case of, I don't meditate like she does. I spend less time in silence and stillness. It's something that I'm learning to do. But for me, it was a case of 2015. There was a big focus on girl child in India at the time. And it was sort of 2 messages for me, because I'd obviously worked with the great Sunny G in commentary and his son Rohan Gavaskar. I'd obviously worked with Sachin Tendulkar at Mumbai Indians. And young Arjun Tendulkar at that stage was sort of 15 or 16. And the sons of these great players, I really felt they were under pressure to be like their fathers. And it was a real message for me, because I still ride in Enfield when I'm in India. And when we were staying in Mumbai with Mumbai Indians, and every day when you went out to the Wankhede Stadium along Marine Drive, every single day on the bike, something different happened. Something unexpected happened. It was never the same thing every day. And it was amazing, because that was the message for my daughter, India. Even though, I'm not a Tendulkar or Gavaskar, I knew that because people know me in India, then possibly she will be under pressure to be like her father in some way or the other, not necessarily a fielder. But my message for her was that, a bit like my bike riding, there's no expectation. Whatever happens, I will embrace it and I will support her on her journey. Because too often we get really caught up in wanting to do things for our children, and you're almost imposing your will and your way on their path. So it was very much for her to understand, just like my motorbike riding in India, whatever she does, I'm going to embrace it with no expectation. So that's around the naming India. But with coming back into the India sort of startup ecospace, or the ecosystem, in South Africa, the economy has come to a grinding halt. There's very few countries in the world that has the economic energy like India. I mean, obviously the size of the market, everybody gets excited, they want to come to India, but they forget that it's very specific. Correct. You can't, it has to be Indian centric, and there's such diversity. So what I've always loved is that I grew up in apartheid era South Africa. Apartheid was a white government, minority government. And everything was designed to keep the white people in power, which meant we were segregated. Anybody who wasn't a white person was kept in different areas, less opportunity. And I had no chance to grow through diversity. And I think that's the beauty, because not just across the states in India, but within the states, there's such incredible diversity. And for me, when I ride the motorbike in India, I get the opportunity to really be on the ground and experience that diversity. Because I've certainly learned, and I know that no matter what level you attain in life, whether it be in business or in sport, you are still growing. I mean, even grandfathers, my father at 84, your journey is never over. And the more I learn about other people, the more I learn about myself. So living in India for 5 months, in a small fishing village, which I suppose is similar to Mahabalipuram down the road. I live in Goa, in Agonda Beach, very small village, and your feet are on the ground all the time. It's a real experience. And so that connection with India is more than just, here's business opportunity. It's a place that my wife and I, and as a family, we really love spending that much time here. So around the wellness, I was a speaker. I'm still a corporate speaker. In fact, this was my first IPL of no cricket coaching. And I'm a corporate coach now. So I basically cricket lessons in how do you apply them in business. And, I've been doing this since 2017, before the pandemic. And sort of the brief that I've always given coming into a company was inspire and motivate people to raise the productivity. And I just kept saying to the management, that's fine. For the first week, they'll be excited because Jonty was here, they got their selfie or an autograph. But what's going to happen to them next week or next month? Because physically, the people that I was talking to didn't look healthy at all. Because working in corporate India, which is why I suppose a lot of you are sitting here right now, is not an ideal place to work, because it does require hard work. And in India, I've lived in Sweden for 2.5 years, 5 p.m. they turn their phone off. On the weekend in Sweden, you can't get hold of anybody. So very different to working in India, where it's 24/7 on call. But with that becomes all the stress and things around it. So corporate wellness is something that we picked up in Sweden, where they have a very strong life balance. And but again, making it Indian-centric, because you can't bring Sweden into India. But because, again, that we're invested in this country, because we spend so much time here, we really want to make a difference. And I think having a purpose in your business is just as important as, what is your business and what's your product? What is the purpose? And that's what we want to achieve here as a family, is just improve the lives of people 1% every day.
Thank you so much, Jonty. Thank you so much. People, I would like to highlight something here now. Yesterday we had a conversation. He asked some of us where we are from. We said Madurai, and started telling him where Madurai is. He said, yes, I know Madurai, Temple City. I'm very much aware of it. And then he started talking about the wedding culture in India. Trust me, he has some beads in his hand. He is 100% Indian sitting right in front of you. We are very happy and proud about that fact, Jonty. Now to the next question. Jonty, we understand in cricket, preparation is everything. So how do you apply that mindset when you try to launch a business or when you evaluate a pitch of somebody?
At this stage, I'm not actually evaluating pitches. I've got a team that does that, or people that I respect in the industry that does that, because I don't have the experience there yet. So I have an incredible network and come across a lot of people with opportunity. And that for me is important to understand the structure more. But when it comes to preparation, there's a lot of similarities between cricket and business, and especially in a startup space. Because the way that we prepare, my father was a school principal, and he literally, when I was 13 or 14 and starting to play state level representative cricket and football and hockey and tennis. So I was playing all those sports at state level. And my father said, Jonty, sure, we can see you have the talent, and we know, because he's a headmaster, there's discipline in our house, you've got the work ethic. He said, but I'll give you one piece of advice, is that your coaches will tell you throughout your career that that's practice that makes perfect. So you require hard work, because having talent alone is not good enough. But he just said, nay, that's half the story, because it's perfect practice that makes perfect. So he would rather me practice for 10 minutes of match-like situation, prepared for the game, than half an hour of then getting tired, taking shortcuts, because your brain is smart. It tells your body to aram se, go slowly, because it's hard work. So my father just said, give yourself 5, 7 minutes, 10 minutes maximum of practicing like it's a match situation. And why is that important? Because in business, you might have a passion for something and a great idea, but if you haven't done your homework, if you haven't studied the market, the competition, the product, the opportunity to scale up, if you haven't done your preparation like it is the real thing, by the time you get to the real thing, you're going to be behind. That's the one area, that perfect practice. You have to do your groundwork. And it doesn't happen, my fielding practice, I was never turn on my A game when the lights were on and the cameras were rolling. My A game was at practice. That was where my A game came, because instinctively you want to do things without thinking, and if you've practiced in that situation, you will. So the second thing now as a coach is that, again, what we try and do is we give the players not just net practice, because you stand in a net and you hit, and there's no real outcome, because the batter will say that was a boundary or a 6, and the bowler will say, no, Jonty caught that, that's out. So no one really knows. So what we do is we give the players scenarios. So you bat as in a pair and you've got to score 23 runs and you've only got 1 wicket. And where you're going to score. So we make them practice the different match situations. So can you build those scenarios into your preparation before launching a business or when you're starting the business? I think it's really important because yes, plan A it's great to have plan A, but often we need to have the agility and the adaptability to pivot to plan B. But if you haven't tried it out in a scenario or simulated what's going to happen, it's very difficult to know that is this plan A the path that I should be on. So the perfect practice in the preparation and giving yourself an opportunity via simulations or scenarios to say, okay, put this in and what is it telling me? What is the data telling me? 2 things that are very important.
So that's a big take home, is it not? Here's the philosophy: practice doesn't bring perfection. The perfect practice brings perfection. And on the go, I think you would have realized he is 100% Indian. He said, Aram se. He said, nahi. Yeah. Lovely. Now, in the audience, I want you to put up your hands if you remember it as if it happened yesterday, the 1992 runout of Inzamam ul Haq. Thank you so much, Prince. So, in 1992, there was this very famous runout wherein Imran Khan and Inzamam ul Haq were on the crease. You had the ball in your hand. You had to make Inzamam ul Haq run out. You had 2 options with you. One, you could throw the ball on the stems. You were very good at it. The other option was you could run, fall on the stumps, and make him out. You did the latter and made him out. So in those few seconds, there would have been a lot of thoughts running in your mind. Should I throw the ball or run to the stems? Throw the ball or run to the stems? How did you decide on what you did?
Well, it is really interesting because I talk about perfect practice. I had never practiced that run out before. Never. Never in my life did I do that at practice. And never in a game again did I do it again. So the amazing thing was that, obviously fielding was something that I was passionate about. I worked really hard at my fielding, although it didn't seem like hard work because it is my passion. And if you're founders and you're starting up a business, hopefully it is your passion, because if it's not, it is going to feel like hard work, because it requires 100% commitment all the time. You can't just leave it at the office and walk home. We know that. So in my preparation, not once did I ever dive into the stumps, but I was diving everywhere. And it was from age 15 or 16 at school, I was already a good fielder. As a football player, I wasn't the goalkeeper, I was actually the goal scorer. Hockey was the same, but we were always diving and sliding. So diving around was a part of my DNA. It really was a part of my cricketing makeup. Even running between the wickets, I was so bad that I would take risk. I would have to dive in and save myself from being run out. But the interesting thing was that, and often in business, it's quite a good lesson. Because yes, we need to focus and hone in on what the problem, the product, or whatever the situation is right in front of us. But with that Inzamam run out, I remember clearly seeing Imran Khan, because I didn't know that Inzamam was such a bad, it's his first World Cup, he was 19 years old. It was only later from then that we realized he was so bad between the wickets. And in fact, when we would discuss playing against Pakistan, you would have a bowling plan for each batter. And the bowlers would say, hey, Jonty, don't run out Inzamam the first time around, because he'll always give you another chance later. Run the other guy out first. So he's worth 2 run-outs for sure. But Imran Khan, he knew how bad Inzamam was, because Imran Khan was standing at the non-striker's end with his hand up. So if you go back to any of the photos, you will see me flying into the stumps, Inzamam reaching, and Imran in the background standing saying, no, not coming. So for me as a thrower, my accuracy still wasn't, at the start of my career, we had no fielding coach. Playing for South Africa, no coach. Up until, we never had a fielding coach. My whole career, no fielding coach for South Africa. So my throwing at the stumps was not as accurate. Someone like Ricky Ponting, I have great respect for. He hit the stumps very, very frequently. But because Imran Khan was standing there with his hand up, I knew that my chance of throwing at 3 stumps, because the bowler's end, when you're standing at backward point, the bowler's end will give you 3 stumps to aim at. The batsman's end will only give you 1, because you're standing side on to the wickets. So I knew I can't throw at the 3 stumps because Imran is standing there. I have to throw at Inzi. But I didn't back my accuracy. I backed my speed. Because when I saw Inzamam, I saw he's halfway down the wicket. I think I can get there faster than him. Because we needed the breakthrough. We needed the run out desperately. Pakistan were batting really well. And we had to win the game to go through, to have a chance to qualify for the semi-final of 1992. So it was desperately needed a wicket. So didn't risk the throw. I ran towards the stump thinking I'll just knock the stumps, the bails off. And then I realized that Inzamam's now coming back faster than I anticipated. And the fastest way for me to cover those last 2 meters was through the air. And the dive, I've spoken to the photographer, he was actually focusing on Inzamam and I just came through his frame. So he wasn't even focused. I mean, it was an accident, which is why I never did it again. You know, it really was. He said he had 3 pictures. One of my head and my hands, one of the full body, and then one of my toes going out the frame. So he didn't even know where I came from. It wasn't like he snapped it thinking, okay, Jonty's going to do something again. But the key message there is that, yes, we need to focus on the specifics. But we also need to understand the market, the bigger picture, what is happening around us. And without that, you know, without knowing the fact that I couldn't throw at the non-striker's end where there are 3 stumps, it possibly would have panned out slightly differently and it wouldn't have launched my career. So yes, specific, focused attention, but also an understanding of the market and the bigger picture was a valuable lesson for me from cricket.
That's so lovely. Thank you so much. So when in dilemma, we ought to focus on our core strength, is what he says. Believe in your core strength and it works for you. In fact, that will move us to the next question. Firstly, congratulations on the Test Championship, South Africa. Big cheers, people. South Africa has been our favorite team ever and ever.
Yes, because you know when we play in a final against India, the ICC tournaments, you guys will win it every time. We haven't been able to win one for a long time. Not like Australia. I mean, no one likes to play Australia in the final. I'm surprised the South African team got that right, so amazing. But thank you. We know the love that India has for the South African team. It's
Certainly.
appreciated.
In fact, everyone in this audience, we have certainly put a lot of pillows in the living room, jumped the way you did, hurt ourselves very badly. We all have done that. That's the love that we have for South Africa and Jonty Rhodes himself. Now, we talked about the victory of South Africa in the Test Championship now. But I would like to take a moment to talk about the 1999 World Cup. You were a part of this most dramatic finishes in the World Cup history. 23 runs required of the last over. 9 runs required of the last over. Klusener at the batting end. 2 boundaries hit in the first 2 balls. Just 1 required. And that run out shocked the whole cricket world. Now, I would like to know how your team showed such sportsmanship after that. And how do you think entrepreneurs have to learn to bounce back from crushing setbacks like that and keep moving forward?
Sure, it's difficult, you know, because we obviously want to be successful and there's self-doubt will easily creep in. But I think that the biggest thing with the South African team under sort of Hansie Cronje's leadership for 5 or 6 years was that the purpose that we had wasn't to lift the trophy. The purpose was to make a difference in the cricketing community. And sadly, Hansie was the one guy with his match fixing or the bookmaking that came right at the end of his career. He shattered that because all of us really believed in the purpose that we had was making cricket a better place. So I think it's really important to stay true to that purpose because you're going to have days of failure after failure after failure, and self-doubt will certainly creep in. And as a cricket team, we really focused on the process and less on the outcome. So the 80-20 rule, 80% on the process, because that's 100% in my control. I can control the process every single day. How I turn up for practice, even if the conditions are not great, what is my attitude to practice? I can find a way to have perfect practice in that situation. How do I prepare against the opposition? Have I done my homework? You know, have I done all of that? And with the outcome, success and failure is just experience. But the key for me in a business environment is the longer you put it off because you're not sure what the outcome is going to be, the longer it takes to learn the lesson. Because we learn from good and from, win and from fail. But if you don't take the first step and commit to or take action, you could delay and delay and delay. And by the time you make the decision to finally go, it's too late. The market's moved or something's shifted. So I think the South African team, we had a greater purpose than just playing to win the cup. We wanted to impact the cricketing community, not just in South Africa, but around the world. And thanks to what you've said already, the love that India has, the people have for the South African team, I think we were achieving that mission at that stage of our careers.
Thank you, Jonty. Like a very beautiful message, a lesson. It's always 80% of process, and process. Definitely taking it up, Jonty. Now, here in this crowd, you have many business people managing resources in their company, people. Now, you've been a part of a wonderful cricket team. How do you handle people who don't play as per the team plan, both in cricket and in business?
The IPL is such a fascinating environment to work in. I mean, you've got 23, 24 players, and obviously the majority are from India, so 16 or 17 from India, and then you'll have 7 or 8 overseas players. And it's not just all from Australia or South Africa. You have Sri Lankans, a Bangladeshi a couple of times, English players. And the way that you play cricket, it's the same game, but it's totally different culture, the way that you play and prepare and everything else that comes to do with cricket. So you've got this combination, and now it's 10 weeks, but before it was 8 weeks. And it's such a short time to bring people together, because by the time you get to know people and understand them, it's time to leave, And I think the important thing was us as coaches was understanding that the beauty of a team is that everyone brings a unique skill. So you can't have 11 clones or 24 clones bringing the same thing, because then, you don't have the all-roundness that you require in a business or in a cricket team. So celebrating that uniqueness was important, but we had to have a team culture and a team goal and a team way of doing things. Because then if people didn't buy into that, regardless of their outlook or their culture of playing cricket, if they didn't buy into the team ethos or the team way of doing things, then we would have not a stern word, but we would have a conversation. And it's important, though, to remember that it was never us telling the players what to do. Because once they're on the field and they're making the decision, it's straight away. There's no time to sort of run the data, come back and make a decision. You have to face every ball or bowl every ball right then and there. Catch every ball. You've got a split second to decide. So you don't have a lot of time for feedback. And if we empower the players to make the choices themselves with confidence, it's a huge positive for the team. Yes, it might not look like the way I would do something, because I've come from South Africa and I've done it this way. But anybody else, the way that they go about producing their cricketing skills is important, because that's when they play to their best ability. But again, as long as it's aligned to the team's goals. And if there's good communication, you then, players understand their role and the job that they have to do. And if there's not good communication, which is not just me talking to the player, it's also me listening to the player. Because the biggest issue I have in India is that there's too much respect. So younger players come into the setup and they don't tell you anything. So if I've said, do you understand what yes, Jonty, sir. Or yes, coach. Because I've told them, no, sir. Sir is my father. I'm just Jonty, coach, or Jonty, if you can manage, but all of them, Jonty, coach, or Jonty, sir. But they'll never tell you what they're really feeling, because they feel it's disrespectful. So like I said, watching as a fielder, watching the bat where the ball's coming from, but watching the batter's body language. Is it a defensive shot? Is it a cut shot? Where's the ball going to be? I'm reading the bigger picture. When I'm communicating with players, I'm listening not just with my ears, but with my eyes as well. So, and whether your team is 2 or 3 people or 24, it's so important to give everybody time and respect, because then they take ownership for their part of the business. And that's essential. I think especially with founders, it's so difficult saying, okay, well, I'm putting in so much work and I've got this passion and these skills, and do I trust the people in my team to do the same? And you have to. You really have to, because somebody who's been overseen the whole time, or they just don't feel empowered to make their own decisions.
That's a lot of wisdom. Big cheers, people. So he says, in order to deal with people who don't go with the plan, empower them. You can't do anything at that point in time. See that you empowered them. Communicate well. Communication is not just about talking, it's also about listening. Listening is not just with the ears, it's also with the eyes. Thank you, sir. Definitely taking those lessons. Now, my next question will also connect with the business people here. You've been a glorious middle order batsman. You often had to adapt to situations, build your innings under pressure, and finally get the team to the results. What advice would you give to entrepreneurs navigating through uncertain phases of their business?
Uncertainty batting in the middle order is just like uncertainty in business. It's there every day, right? It's not something you overcome. It's actually it's a part of your journey. You don't overcome it today and that's it for the rest of your business year, the financial year, that's it, no more uncertainty. Every single day, uncertainty is a part of your business journey. So I think the key there is to embrace it. And it's so important for me as a middle order batter, understanding that today's success or failure is not really going to help me in 3 days' time because the scenario is going to change totally. And can I adapt to it? And can I still have clarity of the way I want to play? And again, that's just the lessons that I learned from this uncertainty. If I implement and I take action, there's going to be an outcome, success or failure. And do I learn from that and then understand that the next game there's going to be uncertainty as well? So we never get away from uncertainty in business. It's a part of what we do. But can you embrace that uncertainty and use it as a part of your business growth? I mean, as I said right at the start, I'm on such a growth journey as a person, and not just in a business sense, but also in my makeup and my whole essence as a man. It needs to keep evolving. I'm never happy with the fact that this is Jonty Rhodes and this is me. I am constantly evolving, and if I'm not up for the changes or for the influence of people around me, you live in a very small sphere or circle. So embrace the uncertainty because it never goes away in business. As a middle order batter, it was different every single time. So how can you use uncertainty to your advantage? You keep learning lessons every single day. But the more you procrastinate or put it off because you're not sure what's going to happen, the longer it takes to learn from that uncertainty. So embrace the uncertainty.
Thank you so much. Now, I'm really enjoying how his every answer is connecting to each other. So we wanted to know how things have to be handled when they go worse. He says, prepare well. We ask him how to manage people, prepare well. So everything is connecting to what we have to do before the situation comes. Now, I would like to move a little away from business and ask, Jonty, you have been the fielding coach for teams for quite some time now. Has anyone in your view matched up with Jonty Rhodes till date?
Well, it's really interesting because I keep saying now that there's change and I haven't stopped learning and growing. I mean, fielding has changed so much since I retired. The only time I left backward point was if Pat Simcox was bowling the off spinner, then I'd go to mid-wicket because that's where 80% of the balls would go. So backward point with the fast bowlers that we had, Sean Pollock, Alan Donald, Lance Klusener, Brian McMillan, all these guys bowled fourth stump, back of a length. So backward point gully was where the action was, and that's why I wanted to be there. So very much, fielding has grown. And when I first started with Mumbai Indians, it was amazing because at the end of the tournament, the IPL 2008 had started, 2009. If there were 10 catches of the tournament, 8 would be overseas players, and only 2 Indians. Whereas now, if you have catches of the IPL, you'll probably have 8 Indian players have taken a catch and 2 overseas players. Because the level of fielding, and not just internationally, but the level of field in India has grown incredibly because there's such an amazing work ethic. Now young players are getting exposed to sort of fielding. And it's not just at the IPL, it's even at state level. There's a TNPL, there's, in Baroda, there's Premier League going on, Karnataka, Maharashtra. So all these youngsters have this great opportunity, and fielding is the third discipline, we know that. And it's not just T20, it's in Test cricket as well. If you give international batters a second opportunity in Test matches, you're in trouble. So fielding has evolved. Karen Pollard was the first guy that showed me how you could defend the boundary. Pollard is 6'3". He's this big man, huge hands, and he would hit sixes at will, but he would defend the boundary like he was playing basketball, like a slam dunk. The catches he would take on these big hands, one-handed, throw it back in, dive, or throw the ball to somebody else. He just showed us what was possible. It wasn't me. It wasn't me saying, okay, this is what we have. I saw what Pollard was doing. Okay, now all of us, because I think that's the key, is that you've got to just keep evolving and changing. But the standard of Indian fielding, I was such a big fan of Suresh Raina for a long time, because he would throw himself around the field. And he would field in every position. At slip, he would field at point, he'd field on the boundary. So an incredible fielder in that I knew that he'd grown up on very hard fields. And for a young Indian player to dive around, I know what it does to the elbows and to the hips and the knees and things. It's hard on your body. And then Jadeja. I mean, Jadu has been incredible for India, but such a different type of fielder. So compared to me and Suresh Raina, we were similar. We were short, stocky. We could dive around quite easily. But Jadu was so quick that you never saw him dive. At the end of a test match, his whites are still white in the field because he's got so much speed. He doesn't have to dive or slide. Whereas with Suresh and myself, we would make up for we had speed, but we had the agility to dive around. So I think that obviously Glenn Phillips has taken some fantastic catches at the last World Cup, and he's probably somebody on at the top of the pedestal when it comes to international fielders. But I think the standard of Indian fielding has grown incredibly. So it's really good to see that. But those two players, and no surprise, CSK players, and it's not because I'm here in Chennai, but they have been two players that I've really admired in the field for the longest time.
We feel very happy about the comments that you have presented about Indian fielding. Thank you so much, Jonty. Now, Jonty, you have been a successful cricketer all these years. Now you're venturing out. You're trying a few more options. You're trying to be an investor. You said you wanted to do some business. You might be thinking about personal branding. The very face would sell. So how do you think authenticity is a very important factor when it comes to personal branding?
Yeah, I think in India especially, because we know where all the sponsorship goes, which sport. I mean, Bollywood obviously, or movie industry is you get lots of actors who endorse, from the men and the women's side, they endorse brands and products. And then in the cricket, there's sort of been three players that have dominated that, and Sachin, MSD, and Virat Kohli. I mean, Rohit to a degree, but those three players have, and it's interesting because you talk about authenticity. If you're endorsing 50 different products, where is the authenticity? But where they have been authentic is to themselves. Did you ever see Dhoni, other than this calm, composed leader who never shouted at his players, who whatever the situation, he just always seemed to have a plan and the situation under control. So there he was authentic because he was authentic to himself. Virat was totally the opposite, aggressive to everybody. And he was consistent to that every single game, whether India were winning or losing, he still had that same aggression. And, and I think that's really important, that when you are authentic, and Sachin has been somebody who's, if you look at his preparation, he has been meticulous in his approach to the game. So three very different individuals who've endorsed everything from pens to fans to cars to, to everything. So you kind of think, well, where is the authenticity in all of that? But when you look at the way that they've behaved and the way that they've played, they can support brands and endorse brands because they have been authentic. You know exactly who they are by what they've shown on the field. Because let's face it, when we're under pressure, you can hide it in the good times. You can hide your real self. But when you're under pressure, you always revert back to who you truly are. So if you're this calm guy and you're pretending to be calm and nice, but when things go against you and suddenly you flip and there's no consistency, especially in a team environment, and even if that team's only 3 or 4 people in your business. But for us, from a cricketing point of view, if we are coaches and today because we win, we're all happy and we smile and we, supporting the players, but should we lose, you sometimes see it from the owners of the IPL teams. Because when you win, you come in and there's the staff of the hotel, they're all waving flags and there's cake. And then you lose a game, you come back and there's nobody. There's almost like they've locked the doors and you can't get into the hotel. So a very different environment. So we as the coaches just try and ensure that we are authentic. Sure, there's no hiding from the truth. So if it needs not a stern word, but criticism, at least the players know that it's not out of anger or resentment or frustration. If there's criticism, it could be in the good or the bad. So the consistency is a huge factor in being authentic. And without authenticity, it doesn't build trust in an environment. And it's like good communication. Trust is so essential to a business that's going to be successful.
So elegantly put. Thank you so much. So he says, be authentic to your own self. And taking from his previous answer, he said, results are important no matter in which style. You can achieve the same result by being Jadu, or being Suresh Raina, or by being Jonty Rhodes. Taken the point, sir. Now, I would like to ask this one question that I asked yesterday. I think it would help every one of us here, particularly the men who play cricket on all Sunday mornings. Most of the times, when the ball is in the air and we are under it, we think, will I catch this ball? Will it fall off my hands? Are my teammates going to scold me? The more I think, the higher is the possibility I would miss that catch. I really want to know, what do you think when the ball is in the air and you are under it?
Well, amazingly, I sort of tried to break down when I ran out Inzamam, the whole thought process that went on, because I'd never been in that situation before. But when it comes to catching, I had caught 1,000 catches before the game, whether they were high catches or flat catches or dipping catches. So then the preparation has been done. And if you're worried about the outcome, will I catch it or will I drop it, then there's more chance that you are going to drop it. But if I'm in a situation where I'm diving for every catch, I've done that at practice in my preparation, it takes the pressure off you to be successful in the field, or the doubt. Sorry, not the pressure off, there's always pressure. But it takes the doubt out of your mind. Because most players who come on a Sunday and play on a Sunday, they haven't been to practice. So for sure, the only time you get a game, the ball is on a Sunday. So maybe once a week you're going to get that. But it's difficult to prepare without that fear of failure or the doubt in your mind. Again, I spoke about at the start the importance of being prepared, the way that you prepare. So the only way to take that out is to, just ensure that there isn't any doubt. It's just in your preparation. And it could be anything that you're doing, not just with the high catches.
Beautiful. Thank you for connecting that again with preparation. I would like to help Jonty with something that he said yesterday. Look at his articulation. He said, don't allow your body to be lazy. Don't allow your body to be sluggish, because the body will remember that. In times of need, it would be lazy. It would be sluggish. Thank you for that thought, Jonty. Now, before we wind up, a last few rapid fire questions. The answers are important, so we're going to go slow. Assume it is rapid fire.
The questions can be rapid fire, but the answers can be
Yes.
broad-based.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Jonty, an Indian business brand that you admire the most?
Well, because I spend half the year in South Africa, half the year in India, we are a developing country in South Africa, but many of the population is still unbanked. So in the fintech space, I think with what UPI has done, how it's changed that, taking the ability to own bank accounts, the ability to save money, to spend money, to so many people in India, which is something that in South Africa we are still lacking. So through the pandemic, there's a government grant that people get, but they physically have to walk. And some of them are elderly people. They physically have to walk to an outlet and receive their money. And then there's risk of theft. So, I think from a fintech space, PhonePe, Paytm on my phone, I use them all the time when I'm in India. And whether it's buying a coconut, tender coconut straight after my surfing session, or going out for a meal, or paying for the cab, that I think, I greatly admire it, because I think with access to funds is essential for growth in a country. And it's no surprise that the Indian economy has grown like it has, because so many people have access to banks that were unbankable before. So I would say in the fintech space, Paytm and PhonePe are really I can't live without them in India. The rest I can, Swiggy I can order online, no problem. I can find a way to eat. I'm never going to die of hunger, but the access to that sort of bankability, I think, is incredible.
Lovely. I didn't expect that the answer to the first rapid fire question would be sitting in the front row here. Epope, you should feel very happy about what you said now. Lovely. So he runs a brand named Epope, which is a fintech. A favorite IPL team, your favorite IPL team, apart from Mumbai Indians and Lucknow Super Giants?
Sure, fortunately those are all in the past, but the one team that I coached 3 teams in my IPL career, 15 out of 18 years. And the one team that I never coached was CSK. And what I loved about CSK was that when they played at home at Chapak, there was a game plan that they had. We all knew what the game plan was, but we just couldn't counter it because they knew their role and they did their job to perfection. And I think Dhoni's captaincy was a massive part of that. So the stability in the team allowed the players to play with confidence, because you never saw him change the field to plan B after the first ball or even the second ball, because he was a firm believer in trust the process. Trust the process. That will allow the players to play to the best of their ability. And that's what he was looking for. And it was incredible. So I think from a point of view, they dominated with MI, winning the trophies. But just the way that Dhoni went about things, for me, I used to hate playing against Chennai because you knew what they were going to do and you actually couldn't counter it. We didn't win too many games here, but so much respect for Dhoni and his Yellow Army. That, probably my favorite team in the IPL.
Do I have the privilege of telling you something similar? You said you hated playing against CSK, but then you loved them so much. We loved you so much. But every time Sachin Tendulkar lifted his bat to the offside, we were so afraid because we hated you at that point position. Lovely. Thank you so much. So again, he says process. So he loves CSK. Got it. Between cricket and business, you have told us so many things that are common. Is there something that's not common between cricket and business? You can't apply this there.
Well, I suppose it's specific to India. I mean, in business, imagine if in your business you had 1 billion fans. I mean, you would be the most successful business person on this planet. So that, I think, is the only difference in India between that what business doesn't have, that cricket does have, is that you have a billion fans in the cricket, but you wished you had those billion customers who were your loyal fans throughout. You really would have a successful business. So that's the one thing business doesn't have that cricket does have in India.
Wonderfully thought, like instant result. You get that in cricket. You do well, you have the claps and cheers of your fans. You do well in business, there is no acknowledgement. Keep going. Lovely. Thank you. I know it's a cruel question. Still, South Africa or Sweden or India?
Well, fortunately, I don't have to make that either or choice because we spend 6 months. Sweden was a part of the journey that served its purpose for the pandemic because Sweden didn't have a lockdown. So we shifted to Sweden just to avoid the lockdown. So our kids were outside. There was no mask mandate, so they didn't have to go to school with masks on. They didn't have to go to online school. We could go in buses and trains, and everybody was walking outside if you felt at risk, you wore a mask or you stayed at home. So Sweden served the purpose. I'm definitely not going back to Sweden because there's no need to go back there anymore. But with regards to India and South Africa, there's a lot of cross-pollinations, there's a lot of similarities, and we never spend 5 months in India wishing we were back in Cape Town, missing anything about Cape Town. In fact, it's difficult to take our kids back to Cape Town because they miss what they have in India. And it's a very simple existence. They miss their friends, they miss what they can do, walking down to the beach. In South Africa, the water is warm and it's clean. So there's not one or the other. The balance that we have right now is perfect. So 6 months in Cape Town, 6 months in India, and every Rhodes is very, very happy. It's a happy family because of that.
So lovely. Thank you. So I've got 3 more rapid-fire questions. A few words about India. A few words about India. A quick few words about India. What would be those most important words you would give for India?
About India. I think for me is just seeing the growth mindset in India. You know, we used to play against India. Javagal Srinath was the fast bowler. And if he got you out, he would almost apologize. He was so nice, such a nice guy. And I think Indian cricket was a long time was like that. You know, good players, but nicer guys. And I think that has changed in a big way. Sourav Ganguly certainly started that change. He got very aggressive and, you know, stood up to Australia. I remember him taking his shirt off at Lord's to rub it in the face of, you know, Fred Flintoff. I mean, that memory will stay with me forever. And sadly, I can't unsee that. Seeing Sourav without his shirt on the balcony at Lord's when we had won the first time at Lord's, we were told, no, you can't even fly the South African flag on the balcony in 1994. And there was Sourav with his shirt off and dancing around. So, you know, and that sort of started. And I think what the IPL has shown is that Indian players can compete with anybody in the world and be the best in the world. And that's what India is from a cricketing point of view. You know, so, and it's not just me trying to get applause here. India have been, and I know the test result didn't go India's way, but it's a young side, it's a transition, which in business it happens too. You know, you have to have some change along the line. And, but the fact that you've had India as the number 1 in Test, in 50 and T20, it just shows the growth mindset in this country. You know, and success breeds success. And I think that's what we see in business. So the startup eco space, there's been some, obviously not everybody's going to be a unicorn, but there has been real success in the startup space, and that inspires all of us, and it makes us, it gives us goals and where we want to go. And without India being successful on the cricket field, there would still be the passion, but no desire from the youngsters, like, I want to play for India because I can be the best in the world. So I think that growth mindset in India is applicable in business, and it's applicable in sport, in cricket specifically, and maybe more in other sports too. So, you know, I want to be in India because you talk about my energy. I feel the energy in India every time I land in this amazing country.
Very proud. Thank you so much. Finally, a few wishes to the Global Business Conclave 2025, your words.
You know, I think the GBC is so important because you are in your business, you are going to feel isolated often. Even with people working with you and for you, you'll still feel isolated. And I think it's really important to grow a community because, you know, we talk in South Africa and India is the same thing. It takes a village to grow or raise a child. And in your startup space, you know, it's all very, because we want to kind of hold on to what's ours and do we have what is our IP, or do we have something that'll keep the competition out? And you don't want to bring people into your business because they're never as passionate as you are. But it's understanding that you can't do everything on your own. And there is an eco space that can support you. So I think from that perspective, these sort of events so essential to the growth of your business. And just, you know, finding a community that can support you, finding people, and it can be in totally different industries. But just in this space, emotionally and mentally, people who know what you're going through, people who have been what you are going through currently, you know, the opportunity to find a mentor, be coached, be a coachable person, it requires this sort of conclave. So the GBC, I think, it's a fantastic effort, and it's kind of the start of taking you and your business to greater heights. So tap into what you've got here. Because it's not everywhere. It really isn't. I don't see anything like this in South Africa. There is nothing like this in South Africa. People do so much in isolation, and they take a long time to learn the lessons, because the greatest way to learn from a mistake is somebody else's mistake. You rather than you have to find your own way every single time. If you've got people in the space sharing with you, caring for you, your growth will be, it's not like you're going to not have obstacles, but it will be a lot less bumpy. And you will have a shorter path to achieving the results that you want. So this sort of community, and then you can add value. If you've been in business for a year, I've only been in business for a year, I want to add value where I can. So, that's my purpose. Bringing people together, connecting people, and hopefully the cricket analogies into business, just one thing that you can take away from that has made a difference. And I think it's so important. In a strong relationship, in a strong community, it's not just what can I get, but what can I give? And the reason you're all here today, let that be a big part of your journey. What can you give in this community? Thank you very much.
So Team Global Business Conclave 2025, that's a compliment that you can remember for several years from now. Final question, how did you enjoy our audience from Tamil Nadu?
Well, people, I can't believe it, because I did have that disclaimer at the beginning. Business, I'm a baby in business. I'm an old man and very experienced in cricket and fielding, obviously. That was my passion. It still is a big part. So grateful to see that the tables are all still filled. People are nodding their heads like I'm actually making sense. So thank you. Even if you're pretending, you're doing an amazing job. I really appreciate it.
We thank you so much, Jonty Rhodes, for having spent all this time with us. People, more than a cricketer, more than a legend himself, he has proven himself to be such a wonderful human, answering all our questions, staying so patient with us. As a compliment, I received this cricket bat signed by him, and to you, Jonty, let me tell you, this is the most prized possession for me till date. Thank you so much. Big cheers as we sign bye-bye to the legend himself. Jonty Rhodes, always the hero in our mind. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jonty Rhodes. That was an incredible session. I would request you to please stay back on stage. And thank you, Mr. Shyam. Thank you so much for the wonderful session with us. Thank you so much. And I would request our founder and co-founder, Ms. Subita and Mr. Kannan, to please join us forward to honor Mr. Jonty Rhodes here on stage. And we love you, Mr. Jonty Rhodes. Thank you very much for being here at the Global Business Conclave 2025.